Hello and welcome to Season 2 of the NGO Whisperer Show. My name is Caroline Opinde. I am the founder of the NGO Whisperer. We are a consulting business that provides technical support to nonprofits so they can successfully impact people's lives. Joining us today from London in the United Kingdom is Ben Chai. Ben Chai is not new to the NGO Whisperer. He is a contributor to the NGO Whisperer magazine and has been on the show earlier, which is earlier during this year, just after COVID-19 lockdown started. Today, Ben will be joining us to share insights on understanding the value of social media in the nonprofit sector. A little bit about Ben Chai. He is a philanthropist working with and supporting organizations that are working with children. An example is Tear Fund, projects in Ghana, and gender-based violence and bullying prevention programs here in the UK. Ben, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Caroline. It's always a pleasure to be chatting with you about great ways to help NGOs expand their reach.
And many of you, you may not know this, but Ben Chai has a lot of experience in the social media sector or the tech sector. In fact, we were chatting before the show and he mentioned that one of his tech company was actually one of the third largest tech companies here in the UK. So insights that he's going to share with us are insights that he has used in his own business. Also, you may notice that he has the logo of Propertunities, one of his businesses, one of the many businesses that he has. It's a property business. And today he's going to share with us insights and wisdom that you can use in the nonprofit sector that he has applied in the very many businesses that he runs and has gotten results. Ben, without further ado, I would like us to go deep into today's topic, understanding the value of social media in the nonprofit sector. And now we will start with the first one, which is about the social media strategy that organizations should have. When you're implementing anything, you need a strategy. So what are these key components of a social media strategy that any organization, whether in the nonprofit sector or even a business, could have?
The main component is actually the planning and scheduling. And it sounds like, oh, we should post straight away. But actually, before you even get to posting stage, you should be planning what it is that you're going to be posting and why. So are you trying to attract more finance for the NGO to fund projects? Are you trying to attract more volunteers to help with some of the resourcing of some of the projects? Are you trying to attract benefactors? So you really need to think what it is you're trying to do before you engage with social media. Once you've got your plans done and thought, okay, this is our main goal. We have, for example, a number of children who need education in Ghana, for example. So how much do I need to fund that education in terms of not just the schooling, but perhaps the food for the children when they're at the school, the transport to get them to the school, and any technology that they might need. So you really need to be thinking holistically with, for example, those kinds of costs. Sometimes that planning may take 3 to 6 months before you've posted anything. If you want to engage with social media while you're in your planning stage, you can post a little snippets of what you're doing in your social media around whatever it is that target is. So, for example, if it was funding the education of children in Ghana. Perhaps show some photographs of some of the schools that you're working with, or some of the transport, and if you've got permission from the families to maybe even have some of the children going to a school. So you can while you're planning what you're going to do, you can have a social media and plan simultaneously. I'll give you an example. Before I launched a number of posts on Facebook, I actually had already in my mind that Monday I was going to post inspirational quotes. On Tuesday, it would be something like parenting tips, because I think education for children is more than just going to school. It's having parents who are supportive and encouraging and sharing with the children that they're amazing people who can do whatever they can think their mind can do. So Tuesday would be about parenting. Wednesday would be, I like to have something a little bit personal, because so that people can feel that you're a human being rather than you're just a business trying to get finance, or a charity just trying to get finance from someone. So I would put a section on dancing on one day, and then I'd have one of my businesses on the Thursday or Friday.
In the recent article that we will be publishing soon, you talk about your social media strategy should also have key performance indicators, whether you're posting inspiration on Monday, tips for parents on Tuesday, personal stuff on Wednesday, where you're just sharing that you are human and you dance and you do all that. You say it is important to have key performance indicators and to show how effective your social media strategy is. Now, what are some of these key performance indicators that you are proposing we have?
Well, the easiest one is the number of views. So the number of views for a photograph or a video or a text, something you've written. That's the easiest key performance indicator. So if you're only getting one view, then perhaps what you're writing is either too self-indulgent, or the photographs are too much about something that people aren't interested in. So views is a very, very quick indicator. Now, it might be that you're only interested in billionaires. So if you get one view from a billionaire, that's fine, because there's a finite number of billionaires in the world. So if you're looking for billionaire benefactors for your NGO and you get one view from a billionaire, that's great, you're doing well. But if it's if your target audience, and this is, by the way, one of the areas that you need to plan for right at the beginning, who are the audience, who are the people who have finance to donate to your NGO, and who not only have the finance, but who kind of resonate with your NGO. So not everybody is interested in children in Ghana, for example, and supporting them. They might be interested in saving whales. So you need to think about who your audience is. And one key performance indicator is how many of that audience have viewed your post. The second key performance indicator would be something like whether they've said like or love or cuddly. There's so many different emojis for the different social medias these days. So you want to see some kind of interaction rather than just a view. Yeah. And so that's an even more powerful one. And of course, when somebody clicks on a like or an emoji, now you've got their names of who actually has clicked on your post. The third and even more powerful indicator is a comment. Now, the comment may be, it might be a positive or a negative comment. It really doesn't matter. It just means that they're interested in your post. So, for example, some of the political NGOs, they may get people who aren't on board with what your thinking about, and they might start writing some kind of comment. But whether the comment is in favor of your post or against it, it's not really relevant. It just means that they're potential people who might be interested in funding and supporting in some way your NGO. So the comment is very powerful, and the most powerful is when they reshare what you've posted, and they've written a comment when they reshare. So these are really, really great performance indicators. Now, after the reshare, probably the most powerful indicator is when they send you a private message and just say, I saw that post that you put up, and I would be very interested in getting involved. Your NGO really resonates with me. How can I take part? Can I make an anonymous donation, or do you have some way where I can help in the background, or not? It doesn't matter. They might want to publicly make the donation for the NGO and their business values. That's dependent on how they want to take it. But that's the most powerful indicator, is when somebody actually writes a private message to you.
One thing that you mentioned that I find very useful, and I want to reiterate it, is the relationship that people create on social media. It's based on storytelling. Storytelling is critical. So you sell stories, you tell stories about yourself, people like it, people comment on it, some people private message you, and you have given us the KPIs, what to look for in views, in likes, in comments, reshares, private messaging, and then also liking people's comments and engaging with them after they have taken their time to show interest in your work. So now let's go into storytelling. With storytelling, you want to draw attention, and you want people to come to you and learn more and engage with you. So there's definitely guidelines on how to have a great story, no matter what size of nonprofit you are, no matter what area you are in. Would you please give us insights on the essentials of storytelling?
Gosh, Caroline. Obviously, having been the editor of 15 plus magazines and online programs, storytelling is at the heart of much of the stuff we do. But I actually feel, and I don't mean to throw this back to you, but because you're now the CEO of NGO Whisperer, I often see some really great stories coming in your magazine. Yes. So perhaps we can do a share here in some of the different aspects that you find have worked with you, and I'll do a few. Does that sound like a good way?
That sounds like good. Now you're interviewing me on my own show. I don't mind sharing. For us at the NGO Whisperer, because we work with people, and for us, key insights and essentials to this, to great storytelling, for us, number one is just to be authentic, to be authentically us. We work with nonprofits. We make sure that everything that we do is authentic. We're not trying to tailor something to fit into what is going on. We just who we are, nonprofit sector, providing support to the nonprofit. We show you who we are authentically. So our stories are based on what's going on. And one of the posts that I did recently, or an interview that we did most recently, was about COVID-19. We actually aired it yesterday. So the post that we did was about Dr. Elizabeth Amakove Wala in Kenya. She is a leading health system strengthening specialist in Kenya. She's at the forefront of fighting COVID-19. Then she herself contracted COVID-19. And I thought it would be great for a frontline healthcare worker to share her story and her struggles in two specific things. First is her first initial reactions when she she herself tested positive for COVID-19. So showing that she is a human before she is a doctor, before she is a health system strengthening specialist. She's a mother. She has 4 children, and now she's tested positive for COVID. And I chatted with her and I told her, share what you felt. And she said, first and foremost, she was afraid. In one of the, during the interview, she said she didn't want to sleep because she was afraid that if she closes her eyes, she might just go peacefully in her sleep. So the first 2 days, she just said, Caroline, I was so tired, I didn't sleep. So that is her being authentic. She didn't come there and give you the do and don'ts from a doctor's perspective, because we wanted her to share that. Number 2, she shared with us her mental health status. And she said she was worried and all that. So authenticity for us comes first and foremost in everything that we share as we tell stories.
So I love everything you're saying there, and you're absolutely right. It's sharing the bad as well as the good. You know, what's going through people's minds in your NGO. For example, maybe you had planned to do something and it got messed up, and you share that and what you learned from that messing up and the worries and the struggles, exactly as you're saying with what's happened with, I think it's that you said Elizabeth.
Yes, Dr. Elizabeth.
So exactly that in the storylines, rather than consistent promotion and how to and so on. And the other aspect of the stories, I think people think stories have to be very long, and they don't have to be. It could just be like a 2-minute story, like, I haven't been able to go to sleep because I've been so worried that I might pass away, and then, you know, I'm concerned about my children. So that is a very, very short story. And the reason I asked you to share your perspective is to let people know that when they're creating their social media, they don't have to have some really long rambling story, which actually causes a lot of people to fall asleep in those very, very, I don't know if you've seen some of those videos, and then kind of after the first 5 minutes, you just turn it off because they haven't even told you what the story's about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And one of the things, Ben, as you said, with storytelling that I have found, and this is something that we at the NGO Whisperer are also working on, is focusing on what is going on around people, like what is the current trends, addressing issues that people are facing now.
So just building on what you're saying, you know, obviously at the time of this broadcast, the coronavirus epidemic is very relevant. And if you can have in your NGO how your NGO is dealing with that, the coronavirus impact on your NGO, that is a relevant story. If it's country specific, so for example in Kenya you've got certain situations, then obviously the NGOs in Kenya and their audiences will probably be very Kenya based. Same with it in the UK, the whole Brexit and the Brexit impact on NGOs will also be relevant to people in the UK. So again, if your audience is interested in that area of geography, then it becomes very today and now and topical. And one of the challenges for NGOs is you can't predict political or geographical impacts on your NGO. So sometimes in the planning, you may just have a space where you write about topical issues to allow for you to be relevant to your audience.
Absolutely. There are many times when nonprofits have to address issues during political campaigns or voting, or even here in the UK with Brexit,
Mm.
non-profits, sometimes people want to hear what is happening. What are your thoughts about Brexit? There's definitely issues that you can talk about when you're talking about Brexit within your area of specialty. I would give an example of a non-profit that is working in the area of supporting family or children. And what is the impact of Brexit on families that are, the father is probably British or the mother is British and the other spouse comes from another country, and therefore now they have to get visas. A good example is, if they were from Europe or other European countries, and now they have to get different documentations for different people within their family. And how does that affect the family dynamics, if people have to travel and leave the country? So a nonprofit could share their views on effects of Brexit on the mental status of children if they are an early childhood development organization or working with children, or if they are working with women. You can share what do women or spouses think about, family members being separated because of visas, for example. So then you can be relevant without being very political. You're sharing it from your perspective. And that's also the issue of being relevant and addressing issues that your, I would say, target group or population or your audience might be interested to know.
Mm.
Another thing that I've found very interesting with storytelling is people are not always looking for hope. They just want you to share. Sometimes the stories are not very positive because it did not end well, but they want you to share what was happening at that time, regardless. I know you've mentioned this, but I want to reiterate it because people think storytelling, it always has to be, and they live happily ever after. Sometimes they don't live happily ever after because that's exactly what happened. What are your thoughts on that? Because I know we had a discussion about authenticity, positivity, and having a positive mindset, and what people say abundance, and the difference between all this. Because some people come and say, oh, I only talk about positive things, and if something negative happens, they don't want to talk about it because they feel like it will taint their positiveness.
I find the deluded people who are always positive, because horrible things happen to good people. And the people who, I don't even think they're positive when they're saying what they believe to be positive words. I think they're being repressed, actually. And there are a number of people who used to be incredibly positive, and today many of them have gone through very bad depression because actually they've repressed rather than expressing that they're very sad, that they miss a loved one, or that whatever's happened to them has impacted. So I love the story from your doctor, and Dr. Elizabeth, who was saying how worried she was. She could have been positive. She could have said, well, here are 10 lessons I learned, and let's look at this positively, by me getting the current. But she was very authentic and said, look, this is how I'm feeling. Now, how she acts in the real life, she may actually take some steps to stop worrying about her fear, but that and her current feeling are two different, for me, two different things. It's saying, listen, I am scared, I accept I'm scared, and here's what I'm doing about it. But sometimes I just feel scared again. It doesn't matter what I do. So I like what you're saying, and I think even though I give a lot of talks about abundance, when I'm talking about it, I'm talking about it holistically, and to embrace the horrible things that happen, and rather than, I have this. I always think the horrible things that happen to me is the universe's way of wanting to move me on. But that doesn't mean that I don't feel like very angry with the people who've caused that horrible thing to happen to me. even though I may deep down know that somehow I'll get through it, and somehow I'll turn that horrible thing into fertilizer, which will benefit me. Again, these are things that you can put in your social media, which makes people resonate with you and your NGO much better, rather than having the constant positive, hey, this has happened, these are the great benefits. I do want to just say something a bit about guilting people out as well, because I think some of the NGOs go too far the opposite way and keep talking about all the bad things that keep happening, and I actually don't want to contribute to them, because all they do is make me feel guilty all the time, and so I just actually don't even want to see their social media. It's not that I'm ignorant that horrible things happen to people, but I just don't want it thrown in my face all the time, probably because I've got my own things to deal with.
Absolutely, absolutely. One of the things that I have been thinking about with the storyline is also, you've mentioned this, being precise, focusing on what story you want to tell, and focusing on one message. Because sometimes, Ben, I've seen people talking about different things, and I know sometimes we ramble, I ramble, and people ramble when they're writing. But when you have the opportunity to plan ahead, you'll be able to be very focused. For example, if a nonprofit is looking at talking about their program, which is a early childhood development program, it would be useful to focus on one program as opposed to focusing on early childhood development, youth empowerment, women empowerment, all in one, because then all of a sudden you have all these three different demographics all presented in one. They all have special needs for each and every one of them, and any reader or your audience might be confused. Are you now focusing on children? Do you want us to support your early childhood program, or the youth, or the women's program? So what I have seen mostly with your posts, and also some of the posts that we put out, we talk about one thing and elaborate on it and call on our audience to step up and to join us to do this. So that's one of the things that I found to be very useful. And for posts that I didn't like and didn't know what to do when those nonprofits came to me, was when they posted about all the different things they did and it wasn't focused.
Yeah, you're very true. Now, there is a way that, again, if you plan it out, that you can actually reach all three audiences in that example, but you would have to have different pages for each of those audiences, rather than confusing your social media with different aspects. You can have different pages, or because if you've created a team in your NGO, you could just have one person on their page handle that specific audience. Does that make sense? So that people don't get confused, and you might be just in charge of the whole program. I think for me that when you're starting out, you should only ever have one audience anyway, and then as things progress, then your audiences will grow and change, and you can attract another strand of audience. But I always think you should just focus straight away. Some people say, but Ben, you post about so many different things on my personal profile, and that's because I'm really at a very different stage to many people compared to when I was starting out, or when I'm working with NGOs.
Now, another thing that I found very useful is great formatting. There is nothing irritating.
You're so right.
Reading a post on social media that you can't tell where the comma and the full stop is. It's like someone just rambling words at you, and you're like, oh, okay, I need to breathe. I need to read this. And usually I don't read those. I myself do long posts, especially for the NGO Whisperer magazine and the show, because I want to give points that I've given. Then I number them. And I say, in this show, we talked about point number 1, point number 2, number 3. Most of the times, my posts are quite long compared to many people who have just a one-liner. However, it's more like a one-pager story with an introduction. This is what we talked about, and then a conclusion to say, thank you so much, connect with us here. However, I have seen people who just put it all out there, no paragraphs, no use of emoji, no numbering, and it's irritating to me.
I think it's irritating to everyone. It's like a sea of words, and you can quickly see how many people like or view it anyway. So if you see like one like, it's probably your mum or your best friend or something who's clicked it, but they haven't read it. So you're absolutely right. No, very few people, if you're lucky, will read anything that doesn't have some kind of formatting. And then if it rambles on and you don't get to the point, same with the videos. I tell you, some of the challenges with video formatting, and what I mean by video formatting is not that you go back and edit it. I'm talking about your Facebook Lives, because that is very valid content. But when you talk about, are you on? Is anybody there? Hello, is anybody watching? I'm just working with the tech at the moment. Sometimes we have bad tech. I'm thinking, what are you doing? Why don't you just speak? And if, because it's social media, it doesn't work out, you can just delete it and start again. Yeah, so that for me is bad video formatting. Somebody was laughing at because I made a comment on one of their videos because they forgot to turn their live off and they started going off and talking about typing and something. So I don't know, 20 minutes in, I think the video was only supposed to be about 5 minutes, but I'd left it on in the background. I don't know if you're the same when you're consuming video content, but I leave it on the background and I listen to what people are saying. So somewhere I just typed a comment saying, it sounds like your typing in the background is wonderful. And when they went back and had a look at the comments, they went and looked at their video, because when you're doing a live, it gives you a time when they typed it. And they went back and said, oh my goodness. So they deleted it and made a brand new one. But I just wouldn't, here's being authentic. It's if you've got a challenge with that kind of video live broadcast, then just say it. Hey guys, we've got a challenge with the broadcast. I'm going to deal with it now. Come back a bit later on, maybe in 10 minutes, and I will probably delete this current broadcast. So see you in 10 minutes.
Lastly, what I want us to talk about is the different types of posts. You shared it with us, but I would like us to go deeper into that. The different types of content that a non-profit could share. I know you shared your personal one on inspiration, motivation, inspiration on Monday, tips on parenting on Tuesday, personal dancing on Wednesday. That is just your example. What about the non-profit sector? Let's say for a non-profit that doesn't have this now, give us examples.
So, for example, I'll talk for the examples from the NGOs that I support in my life. If we're working on, say, education of children or domestic violence, you might have on Monday just some of the and some word of hope for. Say in domestic violence, some word of hope for people going through it. Something like what you're going through is a small dot in your life. It will come to an end sometime, and we're with you. So that might be your first post. And you might want to have those inspirational posts for your NGO. Now, because I'm just dealing with domestic violence on Tuesday, it might be where people can get help. So in the UK, for example, there are a number of organizations. These are commercial organizations like pharmaceuticals, like Boots, who have special places where people going through domestic violence, they can just go to the pharmaceutical and they have a special room where that person can either just be alone and cry, or they can have a chat with somebody. There are also helplines, and you could on Tuesday just go through some of those helplines and talk about, or even have speak to somebody on the helplines to have stories from that world. So Tuesday, that could be where people can get help. Wednesday, it could be some of the stuff that you're doing in helping people going through domestic violence. Now, domestic violence is a particularly tricky subject, so it's very difficult to have people be in your photographs because they're going through it. So I wouldn't have that. But you might be talking about some of the things that you're doing to help people going through domestic violence at the moment. So some of your resources. For example, at Opportunities, and by the way, this is using social media to just share your NGO. Opportunities, we're not an NGO, but I'm just showing you how to share your brand without talking about your brand. I know I'm talking about it now, but you could just have it in the background when you're doing interviews. So at Opportunities, one of the charities that we work with in the North is to help women who, or they could be men, but they're predominantly women, who've gone through some very bad situations with partners, and we're providing like safe houses for them, so where they can't be tracked by someone who is maybe they've got a partner who will stalk them and give them, horrible times when they find them again. So that's one NGO that we're putting up, and you could have those examples of Wednesdays. You could show kind of the insides of some of the places that you're providing people who are going through those challenges, so that they can see that it's a safe and secure place. Can talk about security of some of the aspects. On Thursday, you might want to speak with people who've gone through domestic violence and who've come out on the other side, who are now happy, safe individuals, and interview them and go through some of the challenges that they went through. On Friday, you might want to have some kind of relationship aspect. If you want to post 5 days a week, by the way, I'm just sharing the whole storyline. And if you want to do Saturday and Sunday, it might be personal stuff. And you might want to brand every one of those posts anyway with a slogan from your NGO. But you might want to make a specific call for resources or people who can help out. Or, for example, in some of the safe houses, we might need specific kinds of furniture that we can't acquire, or specific devices that we might put an outreach for.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ben. That was really useful. And to add to that, one of the things that I have seen has worked very well with so many nonprofits, it's to show also a before and after. So, for example, if you are working in the area of supporting children to go to school or something like that, I know this is also can be very invasive because you are taking pictures of children. Of course, with permission, you can take pictures of children before they join school and now when they are in school uniform or when they are graduating.
So building on what you're saying, for the NGOs that have lasted for decades and have seen some of the people that they've worked with grow and become wonderful people in society, those people are willing to come and actually give interviews, and they will share what it was like when they before they came into the NGO and what happened as a result of that NGO. And I really like those kind of stories.
One last thing is how to post a rant. If you want to post a rant on social media, I think most people are afraid to post a rant because, again, we talked about the whole issue of, oh no, I don't want negativity on my feed and on my post and on my page. And therefore, if something wrong is happening in the society, I will not mention it. What's your take on that, Ben?
I think you can rant about domestic violence. You can rant about how Wales are being, persecuted or hunted down. You can write about bad fishing practices. Those kinds of rants, because they work with your NGO, are fine. If you write a rant and people write, I don't want to call it negative, but they just give feedback that's not to your liking, it shows you're watching they're looking at your posts. And it's a really great feedback. And now you know who's watching your posts, and you can see what they're liking and work with that in terms of your NGO.
And lastly, aligned to that is, when you get a feedback that you don't like, it could be that there's something that you need to work on. For example, there was a recording that I did and someone said, oh, I didn't quite understand what she was saying. I found her to be speaking very quietly and all that. It was at the beginning when we were recording the show. And I realized, there's some things I need to improve. There's always room for improvement. So I sent a message back to this gentleman and I said, thank you so much for your feedback. Please watch the next one and let me know if I have improved or not. I haven't seen them commenting anymore on my post to say that they couldn't hear me clearly or something like that. And for me, that was it kind of bruised my ego, because when someone comments on how you speak and all that, you kind of like, oh, well, how do you want me to speak? What do you want me to say? How do you want me to sound? Especially when you come from different cultures and accents and everything. So you take it in, see where there's room for improvement and improve it. And I like those kind of people who are not, they're not afraid to air their thoughts of what they think your post is about or what they feel it should be, because it also makes you think. They keep you on your toes.
They
and
do.
They also help you to become a better organization or provide better services, think differently, and also help you to overcome the group think where everybody thinks like me and therefore they are my friends. Most often than not, the people who don't think exactly like you are the best friends to have, because they help you to grow and think outside of the box.
Yeah, I really like what you're saying. If I can just make one comment, a bruised ego means you're growing.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Indeed, we are growing here at the NGO Whisperer. Lastly, Ben, what message do you have for our audience, the non-profits, around using social media to raise visibility for their work?
So I work by this one phrase: be an oasis in the storm. Your NGO is focused on bettering the world in some way. So be that oasis, show the world how it is that you are making the world a better place to live in, a better place to play in, a better place to work in.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you, Ben. Thank you for the insights you've given us and the discussion that we have had today on understanding the value of social media in the nonprofit sector. It was an honor and a pleasure to host you today.
It was a pleasure to again be on your show, Caroline. And guys, do read the article, because we do go into a lot of depth in terms of formatting of posts, in terms of the video content, in terms of your KPIs, and many of the aspects that we've shared in this broadcast.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. As we come to the end of our show today, we thank you for being with us in season 2 of the NGO Whisperer show. The next will be season 3. We have done 20 episodes. Ben's episode, which is today's episode, is the 20th. And it marks the end of season 2. So we invite you to join us on this journey as we go into the 3rd level of who we are and what we are providing to you and with you. It's all about connecting people, raising funds, and impacting lives globally.